están por acá mi gente? Aquí les traemos la actualidad migratoria de los venezolanos en Estados Unidos. Lamentablemente seguimos siendo noticias por cosas malas, cosas no agradables. Cada día sale a la luz más temas, más problemas que viene a complicar lo que es la situación de nosotros los venezolanos en Estados Unidos. Ya dejó de ser un problema que se escuchaba entre la comunidad venezolana, dentro de la comunidad latina. Ahora estamos ya dentro del público estadounidense de habla inglesa. Vamos a ver unos videitos el día de hoy para estar comentándolos. Están en inglés y bueno, aquí les voy a estar comentándolo de qué trata. Vamos con el primero. El primero trata sobre los arrestos que ya se están haciendo en Nueva York por parte de la policía.
Here in New York City, with tensions high over the growing migrant crisis, federal authorities thought they had found 4 of the migrants involved in the NYPD beatdown all the way out in Arizona, but we are now learning it wasn't them, and most of the alleged attack.
Detuvieron unos migrantes en Arizona pensando que eran los que habían atacado a los policías de Nueva York, y no eran otros más.
Are still on the loose.
Some of the men picked up by federal immigration officers on a Phoenix-bound bus are not the men suspected in the assault on a pair of NYPD officers. So it's still believed some of the migrant men who were charged and released last week.
A estas joyitas todavía las están buscando. Kelvin Arocha, Wilson Juárez, Jorman Reverón, Johan Boada y el otro Gómez.
Are headed out west to the California-Mexico border. CBP confirms to Fox it issued warrants for 3 of the men, Gomez Isquiel, Juarez, and Servita Rocha. The only suspect who is being held on bail in New York in this case, Henry Brito, is set to be arrested.
Este es el único que está preso, ya lo presentaron en corte. Lograron lo que quería, ya hicieron famoso el nombre de Venezuela en inglés.
Arraigned on a grand jury indictment next month when the charges for his alleged role in the assault will be unsealed.
And back to that indictment of Henry Brito, we do not yet know specific charge or charges because that indictment remains under seal. However, he is set for an arraignment March 25th.
The attorney for Henry Brito not saying much today. Brito is right now the only suspect to be arrested and held on bail in connection to the assault on 2 police officers.
Brito had a brief court appearance yesterday for 2 prior misdemeanor cases. His attorney saying after his client pleaded not guilty. This case highlighting the sanctuary city laws which limit New York City agencies in their involvement with ICE. New York City Mayor Eric Adams said this week it's a matter for City Council to take up, and just yesterday he said he supports deportations in these instances.
It is my strong belief.
Este es uno de los grandes alcahuetas culpables de lo que está pasando allá. Le abrió las puertas, le dio de todo, refugio, casa, comida, y mire cómo le está pagando.
That if a person commit a serious crime, felony, violent crime, the federal government should do this job and deport that individual if they're found guilty.
Now, New York Republican lawmakers have penned this letter to New York Governor Kathy Hochul calling for Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg to be removed, saying his handling of this assault must be the, quote, final straw, and adding, quote, the public safety of New Yorkers is clearly at risk. So the DA's office tells us the worst offender.
Ya a niveles altos de la política de Nueva York ya están hablando que ya esto es un problema que se le escapó de las manos, se le escapó lamentablemente de las manos y van a tomar medidas. Los perjudicados van a ser los migrantes de buena fe, lamentablemente.
And the brutal attack have yet to be arrested, and reportedly they're now reviewing police body camera footage to further investigate this case.
8 migrants arrested, 6 charged, 5 freed without bail. 1 had been released from Brownsville due to capacity issues. 2 were removed from the United States, then re-entered. In 8
arrestados, 6 ya le han presentado cargos, 5 los soltaron sin fianza, 4 se escaparon, agarraron 3 más en Arizona. Qué belleza.
Through the northern border. Because of this incident, how is it that this incident changed the conversation in New York about illegal immigration?
Well, it hit home for sure. I mean, it just became more of a reality. And thank you for having me on, and good evening to you.
Yeah.
It became the reality of the actual violence that's taking place in the city of New York that is being caused by this migrant crisis that we have here. Just earlier this week, what are we on, Tuesday? Over the weekend, we had 173,000. Now we have 175,000. The number just keeps going up and up and up. You know, Bragg is known for not prosecuting. Bragg is probably the worst DA to happen to the city of New York. And let me say this, that the the governor could fire Bragg tomorrow if she wanted to, but they don't. So what this did was this flipped it all around. We physically saw our cops being assaulted on a street a few blocks off of Times Square, a main hub for our tourism and for New Yorkers. Look at it. It's
No es posible que un sitio de turistas y de los neoyorquinos para disfrutar ahora no se pueda transitar por culpa de estos migrantes, muletas marginales del Darién, que atacan a los policías.
disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. And let's remember, ICE, we cannot deport anybody. We cannot report their immigrant status under
Right,
the...
no, it's a sanctuary.
Ellos no pueden reportar ni deportar a nadie porque ellos son ciudad santuario. O sea, protegen a los inmigrantes que no están en estatus legal. Pero gracias a estos boleticas seguramente va a afectar a los inmigrantes de bien, buscando protección en Nueva York.
City. I'm curious about this because Mayor Adams has talked so much about how the migrant crisis, if you want to call it that, this crisis of 175,000 people is bankrupting the city. It's causing so many problems. And then at the same time, they're offering free shelter, free food, and now prepaid credit cards. And I'm wondering how the mayor thinks that he is going to tell people to stop coming when he's offering them free credit cards.
Well, obviously...
Él dice que como el alcalde quiere que no venga más gente, que no vaya más gente a Nueva York, pero al mismo tiempo está ofreciendo tarjetas de crédito prepagadas para los migrantes. Más bien eso va a hacer que vaya más gente.
It's just saying, come on in, come on. You know, under the guise of saving the city millions of dollars on the end side of this. He's starting this with 500 families, and with 500 families getting $35 a day. Let me say something here. One of the main reasons for these cards are so that they could purchase the food that they're used to eating from the countries that they come from. They were unhappy with the food that we were giving them in the shelters. They were throwing it out for garbage. They were complaining that they weren't eating native food from their homelands. This is absolutely ludicrous. It's ridiculous, and we hung the welcome sign out. We're going to see what happens with this. We know on the surface it's a disaster, but let's go back to
forgive me for 1 second. There's something deeper here that I think is going on. And there is a realization in New York that had been so welcoming and sort of looked down at the rest of the country of, oh, how can you be worried about the border crisis? We are a city of immigrants, on and on and on.
What I'm seeing here is a shift in moderate Democrats being totally fed up. Nobody likes what's going on here in the city of New York. We have, you know, these streets have become, it's become the wild, wild west, and nobody's being held accountable.
Ya dice que se convirtió en el lejano oeste y nadie es responsable.
Everybody's shaking their head and they're saying, how is this happening? Well, the simple reason is you voted for this. You voted for this. You know exactly what you get when you vote. And if you don't know what you get when you vote, then I'm sorry to say to the people of New York City, you better start to get educated really, really quick, because
Ella dice que los neoyorquinos ellos saben por lo que votaron y es lo que están obteniendo, que tienen que estudiar para tomar mejores decisiones.
We're not going to be able to take this. We got an election coming up.
They are, nonetheless, preying on New Yorkers and making our city less safe.
Yesterday, in his annual trip to Albany, Mayor Adams signaled that he's open to issuing an executive order allowing for the NYPD to notify ICE about migrants who commit dangerous felonies.
That is something we would love to entertain and to look at.
Bueno, en resumen, ahora parece que le van a entregar a ICE, a Inmigración, para que lo deporten a los que estén haciendo crímenes graves. Vamos a ir con el siguiente video que quiero que vean. El segundo video es sobre el decomiso de motos en Nueva York. Adivinen a quién.
Tonight, only Eyewitness News was there as an army of police fanned out at migrant facilities throughout the city, targeting a problem that's exploded in recent months: unregistered scooters, which cops say have become a persistent quality of life issue, particularly in Manhattan.
We had to come here and we had to do our job.
The first order of business here was they went for the bikes. Dozens of bikes without registrations, some with plates stolen off other bikes somewhere in the city, all immediately carted away on a police flatbed. Tonight's operation was about a lot more than illegal bikes, though. It comes after this melee near Times Square over the weekend when nearly a dozen men, believed sources say to be asylum seekers, attacked 2 police officers. 5 were arrested on the spot. Tonight, police caught the man in yellow, and we're still hunting for as many as 5 more.
We're not going to tolerate that, Josh. We're not going to tolerate individuals attacking our police officers. That's not going to happen. We will comb this globe to look for you and bring you to justice.
NYPD Assistant Commissioner Kaz Daughtry led teams of cops tonight. Some scoured the area around the Row Hotel, a migrant center in Hell's Kitchen, and they inspected more of those bikes, which have been involved in a growing number of robberies and the focus of police citywide for weeks.
We are seeing an uptick on scooter robberies in the city, particularly in Manhattan South and Manhattan North, where individuals are on scooters, normally 2 on a scooter, and they're taking your cell phone, your AirPods, your Beats, your wallet, your purse. So we are seeing a little uptick on that, and we're going to be over-aggressively going after these illegal scooters and mopeds that are on our city streets.
Okay, we're back live at the Migrant Center at Randall's Island. I apologize, my earpiece had gone out earlier. Did want to say, breaking just in the last several hours, police did make 2 additional arrests in the assault on that police officer. Police were very upset that many of the people who were arrested originally in that case were immediately released on bail. It's not clear what charges these new suspects will face. Police making the point tonight that they want the world to know that while asylum seekers are welcome in New York City, lawlessness is not.
Y el otro video es un autobús full de migrantes que de Texas lo soltaron en Fresno, en Nevada, pero ellos ni siquiera saben para dónde iban. Ya lo dejaron tirado.
Cities around the country are facing an increase of migrants from the southern border, many coming from Texas. Fresno is now the latest major U.S. city to receive a group. 19 Venezuelan migrants arrived by bus in Fresno on Saturday from Texas. Action News anchor Eliza Navarro talked with some of those families today about their journey and what's next for them. Eliza?
Warren, among the 19, there are families and at least 3 children. A mother and father I spoke with tell me they left Venezuela about 3 months ago searching for a better life. Now, their time in Fresno has been full of unknowns. Local nonprofits and city officials are now stepping in to help.
This was thrust upon us. If we would have had some notice from somebody, we would have been a little bit better prepared to receive them and to go through a more organized process.
At City Hall on Friday afternoon, 19 asylum seekers from Venezuela were provided with resources and soon a health screening. Support, Council Member Miguel Arias and Mayor Jerry Dyer say is happening at the last minute since they had no idea they were in Fresno.
We've been able to secure legal counsel for their
Ahorita son 19 y
status,
tú lo ves
social
tranquilito ahí.
support,
Después le
and
van a
some
invadir las
housing.
calles.
The migrants were dropped off over the weekend by a Greyhound bus. Some of them told me Fresno was not their final destination.
They originally were in El Paso. They were placed on a bus and they were given options as to what city they wanted to go to. and they ultimately chose Denver.
¿Qué dice papá con Capsule en Twitch? Y Forcivo aquí charlando un rato sobre noticias para variar.
Somehow,
Todo es
some
jugar
way,
papas.
they were bused back to California, and according to them, many of them thought they were going to Indio, but they ended up in Fresno.
The families say that after arriving, they were pointed to the Fresno mission. Matt Dildine, the nonprofit CEO, confirms they provided services for them yesterday. Dildine says he's already receiving backlash from his donors for helping out the migrants.
We are not a political organization. It is not our job to decide what border policy is, nor are we advocating for border policy. It's our job to reflect Christ for people who come to our door. And that's what we're trying to do.
The families are now in a hotel and will stay there temporarily while the county steps in to help. Dyer understands buses carrying migrants from states have been sent to other parts of the country and says what's happening needs a solution.
I don't support what has been done in Texas by shipping asylum seekers all over the country. But I also understand the dilemma that they face in Texas, as well as Arizona, where there's an influx of people coming into their states.
Tomorrow morning, social services will be meeting with the families. Mayor Dyer says they will help the 19 migrants get back to El Paso, where they have a court date to continue with their immigration process. More, Grace.
Cities around the country are
Bueno, eso fue todo por hoy. Espero que mañana, en verdad, hay mejores noticias. Por ahí vi una muchacha venezolana que va a estar trabajando en un proyecto de la NASA. También les debo el video sobre los venezolanos ayudando en Chile en el tema del incendio, de los incendios. La Vinotinto perdió hoy con Brasil, creo que le robaron el juego también. 2 goles le anularon y perdieron 2-1. Y creo que Venezuela mañana va a la final de la Serie del Caribe con República Dominicana. Así que espero que las noticias sean mejores para mañana. Espero que sean mejores las noticias para mañana. Pero ya sabemos que no es así. Seguramente va a seguir saliendo información de los boleticas marginales del Darién. Descansen y feliz noche.